Hello and welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today because I've got lots of information coming out from Gaza. This is the war between Israel and Hamas right now. Lots and lots of information coming out. This is Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, on your screen here. And I put "No one will stop us" on the screen because that's literally what he's saying when he's coming out, that he's going to move his troops into Rafah, the southernmost city inside of Gaza, here very soon, in just looks like a little over 2 weeks. And whenever they decide to move in here, it's going to be really bad because there's lots of innocent people there. And Hamas is known to use these civilians as human shields, at least according to Israel. And they have a plan to evacuate these people. I did report a plan just about a week or two ago that supposedly they were going to set up tens of thousands of tents along the coastline of Gaza, and they were going to be moving people to the coastline. I'm not sure if that's still their plan, but they have a plan to move these people out of here. I'm thinking that's probably the only place they can really send them is to the beach, and they're going to try to move in and eradicate Hamas. But there's lots of warnings coming out that Hamas is not going to allow these civilians to leave. They're going to try to keep them there because obviously it's a shield for them. Because if it wasn't for these civilians, the IDF would have moved in already. Okay, but they can't just obviously go in there and start shooting the place up because there's lots of innocent civilians there. So they have to evacuate these civilians too, at least attempt to do so before they can move in. The U.S. has already ordered them to do that. Don't move in without a plan to evacuate people. They don't want a humanitarian disaster, which it already is. So lots of information coming out. So we're going to have several articles to go over. We're going to briefly go over each one. I'm going to get you caught up to speed on what's going on here. So this is some of the latest news coming out. So it looks like hours before the Hamas attack, this was back in October. Was it October 7th? The IDF noticed dozens of terrorists activating Israeli SIMs. So, like their SIM cards on their phones. So, apparently, there was a bunch of phones that were being activated at the same time right before the attack. So, it says here because such activations had taken place in the past, the development was not seen as a definitive red flag. Military censor permits detail for publication following media leak. So, apparently, they knew about this. They knew that these phones were being activated right before the attack, but apparently this is something that has happened frequently in the past where they weren't too concerned about it, and it didn't make it a red flag at the moment, apparently. So it says here at around midnight before Hamas's October 7th onslaught, Israeli intelligence officials identified that dozens of terror operatives in the Gaza Strip had activated Israeli SIM cards on their phones. The Israel Defense Forces acknowledged on Monday. The massacre in southern Israel was launched hours later at 6:30 a.m. during which some 3,000 Hamas-led terrorists burst across the border into Israel from Gaza by land, air, and sea, killing some 1,200 people and seizing 253 hostages of all ages, mostly civilians, under the cover of a deluge of thousands of rockets fired at Israeli towns and cities. The IDF censor allowed some details of the SIM cards case to be published after it was reported during a live Channel 14 news broadcast on Sunday, although it did not verify the report, which claims some 1,000 SIMs were activated simultaneously at night. So yeah, at least like 1,000 cell phones were activated right before the attack. In a statement Monday, the IDF and Shin Bet security agency said reports that around 1,000 Israeli SIM cards were activated simultaneously in the Gaza Strip hours before the October 7th onslaught were false and far from reality. They said that in practice, several indicative signs accumulated, which included, among other things, the activation of only dozens of SIMs which were activated in previous events in the past. So I don't know, maybe there was thousands that were activated all at the same time, and apparently that wasn't a red flag or that information wasn't passed along, and nothing was done about it. So I guess there was already some kind of like, some warning signs or red flags that were going off right before that happened. And this information was not used to protect the people of Israel. So not quite sure what's happening there, but definitely very strange that happened right before. And was that a sign of something big coming? It's possible it could have been. So, also, what happened here over the weekend was pretty terrible. There was a U.S. Air Force member who set himself on fire outside the Israeli embassy in Washington D.C. So apparently, this gentleman passed away, unfortunately. But it says here the airman identified by police as Aaron Bushnell filmed the incident and could be heard yelling "Free Palestine" before collapsing. The U.S. Air Force member who set himself on fire outside the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C., is in an apparent protest against Israel Hamas war has died. The airman was identified by police as 25-year-old Aaron Bushnell of San Antonio, Texas. Dressed in military fatigues, Bushnell filmed himself yelling "Free Palestine" before collapsing to the ground. In a live stream, Bushnell called the Israeli crackdown in Gaza genocide and said what he was doing was not as extreme as the suffering of the Palestinian people. He then put his phone down, doused himself over the head with liquid from a bottle, and then set himself ablaze. So obviously he was protesting. That's terrible that he felt like he had to do that. But he's protesting in regards to this war in Gaza and this. I guess many people are calling it a genocide inside of Gaza, and he basically, I think what he was trying to say was he didn't want to be a part of it. Okay, he was a military service member, and he felt like he was a part of this, what was going on over there, because obviously the U.S. is supporting Israel in what they're doing inside of Gaza. Okay, they're supporting them. The Houthi rebels are attacking ships in the Red Sea. We're preventing them from getting involved. We're preventing so many countries from getting involved because Israel would probably be attacked by now, or would have been a long time ago, if it wasn't for the U.S. supporting them and basically protecting them around the region. So also, we're going to talk about this now here. This is on Axios. So Netanyahu says hostage deal will delay Rafah operation. So apparently there's been lots of different hostage deals being brokered here in Hamas. Hamas wants to release the hostages, but they want the IDF to move out of Gaza and all these different things. And Netanyahu is just not willing to take any hostage deals. Basically, if he's saying if they do a hostage deal right now, all it's going to do is delay the Rafah invasion. But the invasion of Rafah is going to come no matter what, is what he's claiming here. So it says Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told CBS Face the Nation on Sunday that a hostage deal between Israel and Hamas will delay an IDF operation in Rafah, but stress Israel will still conduct the operation later. So they are going to go in no matter what, because this is his stance here. He is not willing to let Hamas remain. Okay, he wants to eliminate them completely. Okay, I've used this analogy many times, kind of like a cancer. If you get a cancer in your body, you can't just remove 75% of the cancer. You got to remove all of it, because otherwise it will just grow back again, right? So that's kind of the analogy that I'm using there, because that's how this situation is. That's how Benjamin Netanyahu sees it. Not how I see it, but how he sees it. He sees it as, we need to remove Hamas completely because Hamas attacked us. If we just only remove a portion of Hamas, but not all of it, they will eventually regroup and rebuild years later or months later and attack us again, is the way that he sees it. So he doesn't want to deal with Hamas anymore. He wants them completely gone. So it says here why it matters. The Biden administration is working to reach a hostage deal that would lead to at least 6 weeks of ceasefire in Gaza. We really need this deal because we really need this pause, a U.S. official told Axios on Saturday. The Biden administration is highly concerned about a possible Israeli military operation in Rafah, where over 1 million Palestinians are living. The U.S. fears the operation could move forward within weeks if a hostage deal isn't achieved. So yes, if there isn't a hostage deal and there isn't some sort of ceasefire that is agreed to, the IDF is going to be moving in here. They said by somewhere around March 12th, March 13th, right around the time of Ramadan. It's like a major like a national holiday or holiday month kind of thing that goes on over there in the Middle East. So if this does not happen, this ceasefire deal does not go through by then, they're going to move in. Okay, so they're going to try to do the best they can to get these hostages out, and after that, they're going right in. Okay, so here's a little bit of information on these hostages as well. So this is on the Hill. Netanyahu says Israel will do our best to evacuate civilians ahead of Rafah operation. It says here Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday said Israeli forces have a plan to evacuate civilians out of harm's way in the Gaza city of Rafah and eliminate the forces of militant Palestinian group Hamas in the southern city. Netanyahu on Monday told Fox News, Fox and Friends anchor Brian Kilmeade he met with the government and military officials on Sunday and was shown a double plan for Israel's highly anticipated invasion of Rafah, the Gaza Strip's southernmost city at the border with Egypt. One for the evacuation and humanitarian assistance of the civilian population in Rafah, Netanyahu said Monday. And second, the elimination of the remaining quarter, roughly, of the Hamas terrorist battalions that are in Rafah. We can't leave them there because that's like leaving a quarter of ISIS in place in a defined territory. You wouldn't do that. And in fact, you didn't do it. So we're not going to do that either. You know, he actually came out just the other day as well, and he was saying, you know, what would the U.S. do if the U.S. was attacked? What the U.S. would be doing way more. And you know what? I have to agree with him. If something like October 7th were to happen in the United States, the U.S. would respond way, way more probably aggressive than what Netanyahu is doing. Not saying that Netanyahu is not doing things that are terrible and would be considered war crimes and genocide and things like that. Obviously, lots of innocent people are being killed in Gaza. But I have to agree with at some point to what he's saying that the U.S. would definitely respond. Okay, look at what happened whenever 2001 we had the Twin Towers that were taken out. Okay, we launched a massive invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan. Many innocent people were killed in the operations that were done there in both of those countries. And that was just the Twin Towers, okay? So, you know, just imagine if something like this happened. It could eventually lead to something major with the U.S. doing something like that. So I have to agree with that. Netanyahu argued Hamas, a U.S. designated terrorist group that has controlled Gaza since 2007, will do everything in their power to ensure Israel does not evacuate Rafah civilians. More than 1 million civilians are estimated to be seeking refuge in Rafah at Israel's discretion. So see, Hamas apparently is going to try to prevent Israel from removing these hostages because that's their shield, right? That's at least what he's saying. Israel has reportedly accused Hamas of using civilians as human shields against Israeli forces, but that's not going to stop us. We won't give them immunity. We'll get the population out. We'll continue the job to achieve total victory. Total victory is how you win the war, and total victory is how you win the peace. You can't win the peace if you don't win the war, Netanyahu said. So like I said, they are going in, and nothing is going to stop them from completing this operation in Rafah, okay? So here's another quick article as well on Reuters. So apparently the Palestinian Prime Minister resigns as pressure grows over post-war Gaza plans. Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Shtayyeh announced his resignation on Monday as the Palestinian Authority looks to build support for an expanded role following Israel's war against the Islamist group Hamas in Gaza. The move comes amid growing U.S. pressure on President Mohammed Abbas to shake up the authority as international efforts intensify to stop the fighting in Gaza and begin work on a political structure to govern the enclave after the war. So I guess that's an issue. They're all trying to decide who's going to be taking control of Gaza, who's going to govern Gaza. They're talking about like a two-state solution. Is that going to happen? It doesn't look like it. I have no idea. But there's lots of pressure here in the region, especially on this prime minister. So he is resigning, apparently. So Abbas accepted Shtayyeh's resignation and asked him to stay on as a caretaker until a permanent replacement is appointed. The Palestinian Authority, created about 30 years ago as part of the interim Oslo Peace Accords, has been badly undermined by accusations of ineffectiveness and corruption, and the prime minister holds little effective power. But Shtayyeh's departure marks a symbolic shift that underlines Abbas's determination to ensure the authority maintains its claim to leadership as international pressure grows for a revival of efforts to create a Palestinian state along Israel. So yeah, apparently that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to create a Palestinian state. So this Palestinian prime minister went ahead and resigned. Okay, so lots and lots of information coming out here. And finally, I want to talk to you about this, okay? So I've done videos on this whole genocide case. The International Court of Justice, the ICJ, has an ongoing case there where South Africa is accusing Israel of committing genocide inside of Gaza against the Palestinian people. And there's several measures that Israel is supposed to be following right now, and trying to prevent excess, I guess, like deaths or killings inside of Gaza. And they have to report back on all this information at month to month to the court to prove that what they're doing is self-defense, and that they're, providing humanitarian assistance to the people of Gaza and things like that. So it says here Israel's not complying with the World Court order in genocide case. So this is just like a month later after they ordered them. So see, we're here now. We're a month in where Israel had 30 days to report all this information back, and now we're here, February 26th. So it says here, zoom in a little bit. The Hague, February 26, 2024, the Israeli government has failed to comply with at least one measure in the legally binding order from the International Court of Justice in South Africa's genocide case, Human Rights Watch said today. Citing warnings about catastrophic conditions in Gaza, the court ordered Israel on January 26, so just one month ago, to take immediate and effective measures to enable the provision of urgently needed basic services and humanitarian aid, and to report back on its compliance to the specific measures within 1 month. So see what I was talking about? They had 1 month to report back on all this information. It says here 1 month later, however, Israel continues to obstruct the provision of basic services and the entry and distribution within Gaza of fuel and life-saving aid, acts of collective punishment that amount to war crimes and include the use of starvation of civilians as a weapon of war. Fewer trucks have entered Gaza, and fewer aid missions have been permitted to reach northern Gaza in several weeks since the ruling than in the weeks preceding it, according to United Nations Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. So I will say that I have heard that not as many trucks are going to the north anymore. I have confirmed that. And I also saw an article one time where there was a aid truck that got fired upon, apparently. Apparently the IDF fired upon this truck. I don't know why, and destroyed it. So there is lots of reports coming out that Israel has supposedly been obstructing delivery aid trucks coming in, blocking them from coming in, creating blockades, just preventing this food and assistance coming in. So apparently that is something that that's being accused on Israel right now. And it says here as well, the Israeli government is starving Gaza's 2.3 million Palestinians, putting them in even more peril than before the World Court's binding order, said Omar Shakir, Israel and Palestine director at Human Rights Watch. The Israeli government has simply ignored the court's ruling and in some ways even intensified its repression, including further blocking life-saving aid. This is really dangerous here, okay? Because if they do not comply with these court orders, the court can say, well, you are committing acts of genocide. You are not following the court's orders. We can order a ceasefire inside of Gaza. But here's the thing, too, is that Netanyahu already said, no matter what happens, the courts will not prevent us. The Biden administration will not prevent us. Nobody will stop us from eliminating Hamas and doing what they need to do. So that's why I'm saying this is getting very dangerous, because we're getting to the point here where this ceasefire order could be initiated through the court, and then Israel will refuse to abide to that order, move into Rafah. We're going to have lots of innocent people that are going to be killed, because they're just, be honest here, they're not going to get rid of all these innocent civilians inside of Rafah. They're not going to be able to take all of them out. It's just not going to happen. There's going to be a lot of them that are still going to be there, and we're going to have 10 times the casualties of what we had before, because just about a third to 2/3 of the entire population of Gaza is inside of Rafah right now in the surrounding areas. So if they don't get those people out of there and they decide to move in prematurely, a lot of innocent people are unfortunately going to die. So this is a really big deal here, and we're getting very close to something big popping off over here in Gaza. And this is only going to anger all these other proxy groups that are backed by Iran, because Hamas is closer and closer to being eliminated. Okay, and Hezbollah is. I'm going to be doing a video about Hezbollah as well. They're over there fighting like crazy in the north right now against Israel, And this is only going to ramp up these attacks even more because we're getting close to something major happening here in Gaza, way worse than what we've seen before. So, yeah, that's going to be it that I have for you here in this video. That's going to be the latest on the Gaza war. But if anything else comes out, I will definitely update all of you. We're going to have a very interesting next couple weeks here as we lead up to March 12th, the day of when Ramadan starts over there in the Middle East, or at least in Israel. So, yeah, expect things to get pretty crazy over here, and the attacks are going to be stepped up by the Houthis as well down in Yemen. The closer we get to this operation, and then once this operation kicks off, I think things are really going to get bad over there in that region. So we'll stay tuned to that. If you enjoyed this video, please like the video, and if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit the notification bell, that way YouTube can notify you. So with that, I appreciate you hanging out today. I hope you all have a great day. Take care and God bless. We'll see you in the next one.